we believe that the music that's being played is called Long Life to the Pope. It's a specific piece of music that was written. We're not certain that that's the title, but it's a traditional piece that is very often played when the Pope appears.
And also, one thing rather interesting, we're not sure why, but the Pontiff did not follow his usual custom of kissing the ground when he arrived.
You have to understand, too, Art, that the president was right at the foot of the steps. It might have been very awkward for him. He would have to ask the president to step back, perhaps, in order to do that. I'm sorry, Father Fetcher, I don't think I heard what you said.
I was saying that we were singing Archbishop May there, welcoming him as president of the U.S. Catholic Conference, and he was a very powerful force in probably bringing about the atmosphere that allowed the Jews to meet last week with the Pope.
And the Star Spangled Banner now.
The Orange Bowl.
Tumultuous welcome.
Listen to that crowd.
Your Holiness, after an audience with you 5 years ago in Vatican City, I met a group of American priests and seminarians who were studying in Rome. And when I happened to mention my hope that one day you would return to the United States, and that perhaps this time your visit would extend to the South and the West, when I mentioned this, those seminarians broke into applause. Today, Your Holiness, you begin just such a return visit. And today, all America applauds. In a document of the Second Vatican Council that you helped to draft, it is written, in language intelligible to every generation, the Church should be able to answer the ever-recurring questions which men ask about the meaning of this present life and of the life to come. In language intelligible to every generation. Certainly no one can speak with greater force to our own generation than you yourself. In Poland, you experienced Nazism and communism. As Pope, you suffered a terrorist attack that nearly claimed your life. Still, you proclaim that the central message of our own time, that the central message of all time is not hatred, but love. During your papacy, you have taken this message to some 68 countries. You have celebrated Mass in the ancient capitals of Europe. You have spoken words of truth and comfort on the African savannah. You have visited new churches on the islands of the Pacific. You've addressed vast gatherings throughout South America and the Far East. Now you have come back to the United States, the nation of citizens from all nations. If I might just interject something, Your Holiness, I know that in your travels you've made it a point to speak to people in their own language. Well, here in Miami, I have a suspicion that you will find many in your audience eager to hear you speak the beautiful language of Spain. But in this, the very month of your visit, we in the United States will be celebrating the 200th anniversary of our Constitution. That document says a great deal about the fundamental values in which we Americans believe. In the words of the distinguished Catholic philosopher Jacques Maritain, the founding fathers were neither metaphysicians nor theologians, but their philosophy of life and their political philosophy, their notion of natural law and of human rights, were permeated with concepts worked out by Christian reason and backed up by an unshakable religious feeling. From the first then, our nation embraced the belief that the individual is sacred, and that as God himself respects human liberty, so too must the state. In freedom, we Americans have in these 200 years built a great country, a country of goodness and abundance. Indeed, Your Holiness, it is precisely because we believe in freedom, because we respect the liberty of the individual in the economic as well as the political sphere, that we have achieved such prosperity. We are justly proud of the Marshall Plan, whose 40th anniversary was celebrated in Europe earlier this year. In Europe and elsewhere, we continue to place our might on the side of human dignity. In Latin America and Asia, we're supporting the expansion of human freedom, in particular, the powerful movement toward democracy. Yet we Americans admit freely to our shortcomings. As you exhort us, we will listen, for with all our hearts, we yearn to make this good land better still. In Florida and South Carolina, in Louisiana and Texas, in Arizona, California, and Michigan, tens of thousands of Americans, more than 50 million Catholics, will greet you. They do great works, America's Catholics, in the name of their church. Here in the United States, American Catholics put their faith into action in countless ways, maintaining parochial schools that give underprivileged children in our inner cities the chance to receive a good education. Supporting the AIDS hospices established by Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity. And perhaps simply helping to put on a fundraising dinner for the local parish. Abroad, American Catholics likewise seek to translate their faith into deeds, whether supporting missionaries in distant lands or helping America's Knights of Columbus restore the facade of St. Peter's in Rome. But it will not be Catholics alone who greet you. Protestants of every denomination, Jews, Muslims, even many with no defined faith at all, Americans of every kind and degree or belief will wish Your Holiness well, responding to your moral leadership. Today's Florida sunshine is no warmer than the affection that you will meet. I began a moment ago by quoting from one document of the Second Vatican Council, permit me to close by quoting from a second. By the hidden and kindly mystery of God's will, a supernatural solidarity reigns among men. A consequence of this is that one person's holiness helps others. Today, Americans feel this solidarity, and we thank you for the courage and sanctity, the kindness and wisdom with which you have done so much to help our troubled world. On behalf of all Americans, Your Holiness, welcome back.
Very grateful, deeply grateful. Mr. President, dear friends, dear people of America, it is a great joy for me once again to be in your country, and I thank you for your warm welcome. I'm deeply grateful to you all. I express my special thanks to the President of the United States, who honors me by his presence here today. I thank the Bishops' Conference and all the individual bishops who have invited me to their dioceses and who have done so much to prepare for my visit. My cordial greetings and good wishes go to all the people of this land. I thank you for opening your hearts to me and for supporting me by your prayers. I assure you of my own prayers. To everyone, I repeat on this occasion what I said on that memorable day in 1979 when I arrived in Boston. On my part, I come to you, America, with sentiments of friendship, reverence, and esteem. I come as one who already knows you and loves you, as one who wishes you to fulfill completely your noble destiny of service to the world. Today, like then, I come to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ to all those who freely choose to listen to me, to tell again the story of God's love in the world, to spell out once more the message of human dignity with its inalienable human rights and its inevitable human duties. Like so many before me coming to America and to this very city of Miami, I come as a pilgrim in the cause of justice and peace and human solidarity, striving to build up the one human family. I come here as a pastor, the pastor of the Catholic Church, to speak and pray with the Catholic people. The theme of my visit, unity in the work of service, affords me to welcome opportunity to enter into ever deeper communion with them in our common service to the Lord. It also enables me to experience ever more keenly with them their hopes and joys, their anxieties and griefs. I come as a friend of America and of all Americans, Catholics, Orthodox, Protestants, Jews, people of every religion, and all men and women of goodwill. I come as a friend of the poor and the sick and the dying, those who are struggling with the problems of each day, those who are rising and falling and stumbling on the journey of life, those who are seeking and discovering, and those not yet finding the deep meaning of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And finally, I come to join you as you celebrate the bicentennial of the great document, the Constitution of the United States of America. I willingly join you in your prayer and thanksgiving to God for the providential way in which the Constitution has served the people of this nation for 2 centuries. For the Union, it has formed the justice it has established, the tranquility and peace it has ensured, the general welfare it has promoted, and the blessings of liberty it has secured. I join you also in asking God to inspire you as Americans who have received so much in freedom and prosperity and human enrichment, to continue to share all this with so many brothers and sisters throughout the other countries of the world who are still waiting and hoping to live according to standards worthy of the children of God. With great enthusiasm, I look forward to being with you in the days ahead. Meanwhile, my prayer for all of you, dear people of America, is this: the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. God bless America.
Well, that was really somewhat of a fantastic speech from both the president and, of course, Pope Paul John II. And he said so many wonderful things. And I was kind of amazed when he referred to the Constitution and the fact that he knows that we're celebrating the anniversary. Art, I suspect that you can see better than we can what he's doing. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and loud and clear. He is talking to the President and Mrs. Reagan right now. They are at the car. They will begin in the motorcade as soon as they set off. I think it's interesting, and in his remarks, the pontiff called once again on the United States to continue and fulfill its destiny of service to the world. This is a message that he has spoken of before, and he will be speaking of long and hard during his trip here. The fact that the United States, with all its wealth and prosperity, needs to share that with people around the world.
Art, this is the last time that the president and the pontiff will see each other before the meeting at Vizcaya. Is that correct? They now go their separate ways?
That is correct, yeah. The motorcade, the papal motorcade will leave first, followed by the president, again, protocol, and they will meet several hours hence over at Vizcaya.
Is the Archbishop traveling with Pope John Paul?
It is hard for me to see, Ann. I don't really know at this point.
Well, if he's not in the car with them, surely he's not too far behind as they head towards St. Mary's.
I would think so. The motorcade will all be there together as they go. Florida Highway Patrol has moved into position, as has Miami-Dade, and the motorcycle escort. The President's still talking with the Pope, and now bidding him adieu, I believe, until they meet again at Vizcaya.
This is, of course, a time period when the road closings begin to play a major part in this whole scenario.
That's very true, and if anybody is within the sound of our voices, that's a good thing. That means they're not around the airport, because there's no way the traffic is moving around this airport on at least 3 sides right now. Lejeune Road, the airport expressway from Lejeune all the way over to Miami Beach, and 36th Street, closed. There's the motorcade.
The crowd seemed extremely enthusiastic during the Pope's remarks. Art, what was the expression on their faces? We saw some of them, but were they as thrilled as they sounded?
I would say so, Ann. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in an event. The Pope was speaking directly to them. Of course, when the President said, I think they're looking forward to hearing you speak in the language of Spain, that was brought quite a response from the crowd.
And of course, he spoke in excellent English.
This is something that people have remarked, that in just the past few weeks, in his preparations for the trip to the United States, the Pope's command of the language has seemed to improve quite a lot, although he has been fluent in it for some time.
He's a remarkable linguist.
He is a remarkable man. I think if there was anybody that could be called a Renaissance man, Pope John Paul II is probably it.
This is the first time you've seen him as well, isn't it, Art?
That is correct.
It's hard not to have some emotional response, don't you think?
Well, I have to tell you, I was raised as a Methodist, and I know very little, quite frankly, about the Catholic Church. But over the past few weeks in studying and doing research and learning what I can about the Pope and talking to you especially since you went over there, I've developed a deep appreciation for this, and I must say, very impressed, just very impressed.
And a lot of that knowledge we're going to share with our viewers throughout the papal visit.
Absolutely, but it's very difficult for me to even pretend to be knowledgeable when I'm sitting next to Father Fetcher here, who surely knows a great deal more about it than I do. I know this is the first time you've seen him here, Father Fetcher, but were there any surprises in what the Pope said?
No, not surprises at all, but I was very touched by the whole tone of his message, you know, recalling his first visit. And that visit had some difficult moments in it for American Catholics, and yet at the same time, something about his consistency and the gentleness of his message. I think as a pastoral visit to Catholics, we're going to be asked to look upon our own manner of living. We're going to be asked to find the altruism in ourselves. The President spoke about Catholic altruism, but I think we Catholics suffer from the same thing that Americans do. We can be very generous about many things. Look at Jerry Lewis's telethon. And yet to adopt that as a way of life, rather than simply having it come out of perhaps some of our extra, that's going to be a challenge to us as Catholics, I know, and probably as Americans.
Well, our goodness toward mankind should not be necessarily just an occasional special, but an across-the-board attitude, I suppose.
Exactly. When he talks about justice and peace, you know, you've seen that great bumper sticker. They talk about bumper sticker Christianity, you know. But if you want peace, work for justice. And I think that in those places where we don't have peace in the world, it's because we don't have justice for an awful lot of people. Whether we're talking about racial relations or economics or politics. It was interesting that the president talked about our ability to live in liberty, and it gave us economic and political freedom. He was very strong about that. And I think it's calling ourselves to our fullest potential. And hopefully, as American Catholics especially, we can take those two words together and pull very powerful things out of both of them.
The thing that I thought was particularly interesting is, you know, that there have been some bad feelings in letters to the editor and comments about all of the money that's being spent and all of the roads that are being closed and all of this activity for the visit of the Pope. And yet he steps forward and says he speaks to all mankind and he prays to all of the children of God, which includes each and every one of us. And I think people who see this as a trip that is designed for Roman Catholics alone are not understanding the Pope's message.
Well, I can understand the sensitivities about the cross and things like that. In my mind, I've gone through 100 letters to the editor, you know, justifying this and justifying that. But in reality, you got to put it in some sort of perspective. When we're talking about, you know, $22 million for the country, and we just spent $10 million on the Iran-Contra hearings. I mean, you got to get some things in perspective. We passed $500,000 in the city for the Miss Universe pageant.
Something like this has never happened before, so
right. And,
it's
you
a
know,
first for...
53 million Catholics pay an awful lot of taxes, and if this can help us be better Americans as well as better Catholics, then maybe it's not a bad investment.
Father Fetcher.
Yes, Art, go ahead.
It also strikes me that it is very difficult or almost unconscionable to criticize someone, whether we are Catholic, Jewish, or whatever, that speaks to the best in all of us. I mean,
yes,
he is there as a constant human reminder of what we all can be and perhaps should be.
I want to thank a good Methodist for saying that. You know, it almost sounds self-serving as a Catholic to say it, but I think you're right. And I know my neighboring rabbi, Herb Baumgart, has said the same thing to me, Temple Beth Am. And I think that's the challenge, to pull out the best from all of us, really, without getting over pietistic or
maudlin or
unrealistic about, you know, the criticisms that we need to make in every level of our faith as well as our society.
I must say, Father Fetcher, I was certainly surprised to hear you talk about bumper sticker theology when I've seen so many St. Louis Catholic Church bumper stickers.
Well, we're purifying the movement. That's what we're doing. You know?
I see.
Yes.
Father, your reaction again to the president's remarks. I know as he was delivering his remarks, you expressed some surprise, first of all, by the length and by the topics. Your reaction?
I was very touched as a Catholic. It was something like, if you can get my analogy, only President Nixon could have opened up relations to China. Humphrey could never have done it and gotten away with it, you know? And it's almost like the president coming along and reminding we people as Catholics what we're trying to do. He talks about keeping inner city schools open. That's one of the things right here in Miami that we're doing. I mean, the diocese, it's a reverse flow of money, putting money into 6 inner city Catholic schools, trying to create a good possibility for education in those situations, you know? When I hear the president say it, I have to stop, not pat myself on the back and say, you know, how good a job are we doing? That's the question.
He certainly had a number of wonderful things to say about things that have been created by not only the Catholic Church, but the Catholic laymen and the efforts that they make, not just toward necessarily their own religion, but efforts really for the entire community. I can see the president is pulling away now. I believe he's going to the Hyatt downtown. Isn't that correct?
That's correct, Ann. He's heading down to the Hyatt. Interestingly enough, as we look off to the horizon, Air Rescue 1 and Air Rescue 2 have been mobilized. The various helicopters and the Secret Service and Coast Guard are up and around now. And there goes an impressive motorcade, no matter what the occasion.
Art, what are the specific plans at the Hyatt? Is it just he's relaxing perhaps before the trip to Vizcaya, or will he be meeting with people at the Hyatt?
Dwight, quite frankly, I have no idea. Nobody's given us any information on that whatsoever. The president's activities here in South Florida, quite frankly, aside from meeting with the Pontiff at Vizcaya, have been virtually unpublicized anywhere.
Well, I don't think
really have no idea.
I don't think there's anything in particular that's scheduled, and I think also that they wanted to keep his particular agenda on a low key, feeling very rightly so that this day really belongs to the Pope and the meetings that will be taking place at that time.
But you have to believe that some local Republicans will seize upon the opportunity to have a conversation.
I would think someone would have requested to see the president if they had an opportunity. Don't you know, Art, that with the Pope going in one direction and the president in the other, that the Secret Service radios are going crazy at this point?
I think we should all in the local media count ourselves fortunate that we're on the air at all and can hear one another with all the microwaves flying around right now.
This whole area has got to be on fire with microwave.
Just a moment ago, we saw a shot.
Look like an Indiana cornfield.
Art, this shot is something that I don't think we'll ever see again. The expressway closed down around the airport with only the motorcade. Look at that.
That is definitely impressive.
Must be a nice feeling, too.
Now, I understand that they are only allowing one helicopter anywhere near any of the activities going on at all.
Well, it's getting a wonderful shot, whoever is in it.
It's my understanding that originally there was a 2-mile radius around the mast site in the airport, that was extended to 10 miles. So security very much uppermost in the minds of most people here.
The last time that I saw that expressway closed, if you remember, was after Liberty City. And I was out on a sick call, and I remember driving across that and being terrorized by its emptiness. And praise God that we've got a far better reason for having it closed today.
Thank heavens.
May of 1980, I believe that was.
Look at the space they're keeping. If people drove like that every day.
Isn't that the truth?
We're looking for great things to come from his visit, but that's almost too much to hope for.
Father Fetcher, I must ask you something that I'm curious about. The Pontiff has used his office here in the past, almost, I don't want to say as an instructional platform, but he has done what he can in his travels around the world, here and down in Chile and everywhere else that he's gone, to gently prod and try and instruct the political leaders of the various nations in trying to work definite political change. Do you think he's going to try and do that again with President Reagan?
No, I think that he's going to be far more sensitive in this country to, number one, to our religious pluralism.
But the other thing that I think is kind of interesting, and I don't pretend to be a political pundit, but I kind of think that the Holy Father and the President probably share an awful lot of similar attitudes about an awful lot of things. I think that I wouldn't be at all surprised, and again, I'm no pundit, to have them talking about Nicaragua this afternoon when they meet at Vizcaya. And I think that's going to be something that's very important to both of them.
Well, I know it's very interesting to note that President Reagan has gone out of his way on every other occasion that he's met with Pope John Paul II to keep him assessed of negotiations going on in Geneva, the SALT Accords, the arms accord that they're trying to reach with the Soviets. And the last time they met in June, both men said that they talked at some length about U.S.-Soviet relations, and in particular, Soviet Premier Gorbachev.
Right, and the disarmament treaty too, or if that could come up, that's been one of the Holy Father's constant themes. I mean, when he's talking about peace, he's also a very pragmatic man, and he will not hesitate to speak about how he thinks that pragmatism needs to be lived out, and how people can go about the business of actually doing what he's saying, so that it's not just a question of being very idealistic, it's a question of putting a pragmatism with it, and I think that's important.
There's no point in having heavenly rewards if we can't put the teachings into effect here, I think is what he's saying.
Well, that's the whole thing. You remember Karl Marx talking about religion being the opium of the people, and if there's anything this Pope is somebody who wants us to keep a clear thinking and level-headed, and the religion is not supposed to be something that lets us put off all kinds of injustice and just wait and get our heavenly reward, and God will make it all right when we finally get there. I mean, heaven begins now, and when the Pope came in and he said, I'm here to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, well, what that means for us as Catholic people is a call to eternal life that begins with celebrating a kingdom of peace and justice right here and now. And so it affects every fabric of our life.